Good morning, YouTube. What's going on? It's Mesa back at it with some Destiny 2 news. All right, we got a lot of stuff to talk about in this video. Edge Magazine issue number 310 did a big story on Destiny 2. Well, some of it leaked onto Reddit. Well, I have the full article in my possession. Well, I have screenshots of it. Thank you to my co-host on Guardian Radio, MyNameIsByf. Now, one of the really cool things about this article is that Edge Magazine went to Bungie about the time that the Destiny beta was on console. However, they say in the article that they got to play a nearly completed build of Destiny 2. So without further ado, as Philip DeFranco says, let's just jump into it. Now, when Edge Magazine went out there to play Destiny 2 and do this story, they got to play the campaign in its entirety. Don't worry, no spoilers are in this article and none are going to be in this video. Now, let's go through the important things or things you don't know about, or we want to confirm some things from that Reddit post. They say conversation is a key theme for Destiny 2, a driving factor behind many of the changes Bungie has made to the mechanical template. Some of the endgame activities will lock your loadout. For instance, preventing you from changing your weapons or subclass nodes after you load into a mission, requiring that you and your Fireteam devise a plan before setting out. Now, we heard this already in the Bungie podcast. One of the developers talked about how they spent numerous times going in and out of a particular mission to go back in orbit and, okay, I got to change things up here. I'm using the wrong weapons. Let's make a plan before we go in. So my guess it's going to be for the Nightfall and other activities. We're going to talk about the Nightfall in a second here. Seeing in some comments though, folks are like, there's no way this would be in the raid. But you know what? I could totally imagine them doing this if they bring back the whole challenge mode thing, right? More than likely, we'll get the normal raid, we'll get the hard version, and then we'll get probably a challenge mode. I can't see why they wouldn't bring it back, considering how much of a success and fun the challenge modes were for Destiny 1. Next up, Edge Magazine talks about the Nightfall. They say the weekly Nightfall, once the most attritional activity in all of Destiny, a rock-hard fight against overleveled bullet sponge enemies that kick you back into orbit if your entire team died, is now a timed challenge. The limit will vary. Smith gives 13 minutes as an example, but you'll need to be efficient as well as effective, something which will only be possible if a team settles on a strategy beforehand, then properly executes it. Now, they don't outright say here that the lock loadouts are for the Nightfall, but I'm speculating it more than likely is. And also, time limit will vary. We don't know if that means per strike or maybe per Nightfall or per activity. We don't know right now. I know some people are speculating that the strikes will have time limits. Well, we don't know that just yet. They're just saying that they will have time limits. We just don't know them yet. And one of them, he said, is 13 minutes long. So I get a feeling it could be that modifier for that week. Maybe some strikes, depending on the modifiers, will have a longer time limit. I don't know. We'll have to see how it pans out. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Next up, they talk about the whole changes in the weapon system, right? We have kinetic, we have energy, and we have power. No longer primary, special, and heavy. Now, it says that this has not gone down well with the Destiny community. I like the new system. It's going to take some getting used to. But it says players see it as evidence of Bungie being so desperate to fix the PvP component of the game at the PvE player's expense. Now, they say Smith readily admits the change has been at least partly implemented to make life easier for Bungie's teams to design things. He goes, it's about, as a designer, being able to understand how much power a player is going to be able to bring to bear. He says, but stresses there are benefits to players in both modes. Remember, the weapons at Destiny 2 are quote-unquote handcrafted. If something becomes a problem, they don't have to go and blanket change that entire archetype. They could just go into that one weapon that becomes a problem and tune it. Luke also says that the beta did not contain the final implementation of how energy weapons work against AI combatants with elemental shields, for instance. When the shield is depleted, it explodes, nuking any enemies that happen to be nearby. Now, a number of folks did comment in some previous videos that they did see that during the beta. I don't recall seeing it, but yeah, that's something that's different that I think would be pretty cool. You know, you see a Vex Minotaur with a Void Shield, you use your Void Energy weapon, take the shield down, and hopefully some of those goblins or hobgoblins right next to them, they'll get taken out by that explosion. Next up, they were talking about how when they were there, the beta was going on, right? So everyone was complaining, obviously, about the supers, the cooldowns, all sorts of stuff. So he said Luke Smith quickly took to Twitter to say that, well, hey, this is an older build. This is not going to be the final version. So to quote Edge Magazine, they say, yes, relax. Base cooldowns are lower in the final game than they were in the beta. Yet there is a wider structural change at play here, one born of a very different philosophy to which drove the game's first design. They continue with, yes, Destiny 1, the cooldowns were reduced by stats that randomly roll a piece of armor. They were passive, bestowed upon you automatically by the things you wore. Here, they're active. If you want your next grenade more quickly, you're gonna have to work for it. And here's where we get an example. They say, our beloved Warlock, a perk in the Dawnblade subclass, lets us speed up the recharge rate of our grenade with airborne kills, an exotic chest piece acquired during the campaign when our character's level is still in single figures. Makes us hover in place when we aim down our gun sights in the air. Dispatch 4 or 5 enemies while airborne and our grenade is ready again. Doing so is a risk, of course. There was no cover in the sky, so we're static targets in the line of sight of enemies. Now, that exotic that we're going to get during the campaign mission, I saw a lot of banter on Twitter and social media and, of course, Reddit that, whoa, this is ridiculous. We're getting an exotic in the midway of the campaign? Come on. Look, guys, cool your cucumbers, all right? Let's wait until the game comes out and see how things work. I wouldn't mind getting an exotic during the campaign. And more than likely, who knows, it may be just like an introduction to how exotics work in Destiny 2. I mean, we haven't seen any of the exotic armor pieces. Might have seen what one might look like here and there in some of the trailers, but we don't know what they do, right? So maybe it's their way of introducing us to how exotics are going to work in Destiny 2 in terms of armor, right? I was shocked when I went to the Destiny 2 reveal and we had the Risk Runner, we had Sweet Business, we had a number of exotics, and we're like, whoa, they're just giving us that stuff right away? Relax, let's see how it all pans out. Edge goes on to say, it's a neat summation of the way Bungie's treating abilities in Destiny 2. Acquiring them involves more input from the player than before, but the rewards for using them have been significantly increased. Listen to this one. Grenades now hit like magical elemental power trucks and are no longer solely used for clearing low-level adds. Chuck one at a boss and its effect is dramatic. Now we get another Warlock example here. The Devour state, triggered either by scoring a kill with your melee ability or by consuming a grenade by holding instead of tapping the throw button. When Devour is active, kills restore your health and also accelerates your grenade cooldown. Charge it up quickly enough and you could stay in the Devour state for as long as there are enemies around you to kill. Your health constantly topping up, your grenades recharging in seconds. Now in my opinion, this is more fun than just having intellect, discipline, and strength and wondering when your charges are going to come back. No, if you do things on the battlefield, you're going to get your abilities back. I like this. What do you guys think in the comment section? Now here's another quote from Luke Smith on why this all makes sense. The thinking behind this is to make ability recharge part of the gameplay loop. We want to present the opportunity and choice that means players can customize themselves more. By doing so, will also involve trade-off and making difficult decisions. That's been our approach. How do these different elements conspire to create interesting combinations that leads to strengths and weaknesses in each character? Next up, hunters are addressed and Luke Smith talks about them. Now, most of the community is complaining, including myself, that hunters seem a little lackluster in the beta in terms of a support class. You know, the Titans have the wall, Warlocks have the rift, and the hunters have the dodge, which I personally found a lot of fun, especially reloading my weapons in the middle of ads all the time. But Luke does point out that one subclass path lets hunters create up to 8 orbs for their allies using their golden gun, enough when picked up to fill every team's entire superbar from scratch. Listen to this. He goes, but there's more. Smith has asked us not to spoil it, and for once, we've agreed. Suffice to say that everything is going to be fine. Now, what I'm reading into that, and what a lot of people are reading into that, is that Nightstalker is coming back. Well, we don't have any concrete data on that one. I couldn't imagine Nightstalker not coming back, but my gut tells me that they're not going to ship the game with 3 subclasses. But then again, we don't know. There was that one tweet that someone made to Mark Noseworthy talking about, hey, there's no support class for the Hunter. And Mark didn't really confirm or deny anything. He just basically said we want to leave some surprises when the game actually ships. So there's a good chance the Nightstalker could be coming back. I don't know. You guys let me know what you guys think in the comment section. I hope it's coming back. I don't think it's going to, but I really do hope it is coming back. Kind of sounds like it, and that's the consensus everyone's saying on social media, but we'll just have to see. Now, this next quote has everyone in a tizzy, including myself. Let me read this. There's plenty more we can't talk about, but one day you must ask us about the Magician. Now, the Magician, what could it be? Well, could be an NPC, doubt it. Could be a weapon that's ridiculous, right? That's a possibility. Could be an exotic armor piece? I don't know, folks. I'm at a loss here. I want to hear what you guys think in the comment section. The Magician. You must ask us about the Magician. I'm betting, you know what? I'm going to say it's a weapon. I bet it's some sort of exotic weapon that's really cool. I don't know. Yeah. No, the more that I read into it, the Magician. You know, it's got to be an NPC. I don't know. I'm babbling. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Next up, they comment on the story experience to them. Don't worry, no spoilers. They say Destiny 2's story is not only entertaining, but it also makes sense from beginning to end. Now, we know this stuff already, but I'm just going to read it. The scene is quickly set. The Red Legion, an elite faction of the hulking Cabal race, has designs on the Traveler, the looming planet-like sphere that gives Destiny Guardians their powers and the ability to regenerate health after death. Under the leadership of Dominus Gall, the Legion assaults the tower, the last remaining city on Earth, and leaves it in tatters. The enemy encases the Traveler in a cage, preventing it from dispensing light, stripping the Guardians of their abilities and sending them running scared to nearby planets and moons. Gall, it transpires, intends to drain the Traveler of its power and use it to his own nefarious ends. Edge goes on to say, yet within an hour of sitting down with Destiny 2, you completely understand what the bad guys are doing and why. They seek to build an empire to reshape society, to lead it, but to do so in a way they feel will be better than the status quo. You might actually see their point, even if they've kidnapped one of your most valued allies. So while Gall works to harvest the Traveler's energy, you must first recover your powers, then reassemble your troops from the interplanetary hiatus before working out to coordinate an assault on the elite members of the faction of enemies who, as one of Destiny's few memorable lines of dialogue once explained, blow up planets just for getting in their way. Now next up, we're going to get into a little bit of story stuff, but I don't think it's spoiling it for you guys. Just listen. So once the Red Legion has destroyed the tower, you awake in the European Dead Zone, the largest area Bungie has ever built, with no weapons or powers, and you walk slowly with a stagger. You must, if only for a while, play a very different game. A fallen tree provides an essential bridge across a gap that normally you would sail over without a second thought. A new mantle animation, which obviously we saw in the beta, which we previously thought had been solely designed to ensure you no longer miss a ledge that's 30 feet off the ground during a firefight, provides a vital thing for getting over a low wall, and also a mountain trail as we follow a tight path towards our objective. We experience something we've never known in Destiny, a fear of heights. Now, they go on to say, this doesn't last for long, of course. Soon after, you happen to come across the farm, which is obviously our new social space, where they say we're going to find fellow Guardians, but also vendors dispensing quests and wares. So remember, they did say that the vendors are no longer NPCs, will no longer be selling items. It's all going to be through packages and quests. So the more quests they put in Destiny 2, the happier I think we all will be. Now, they do go on to say that at the farm, there's going to be people there who aren't Guardians or were never blessed with the light. But they say among them is Soraya Hawthorne, a handy sniper with a fine line and withering sarcasm. Now, she's going to alert you to a nearby shard of the light that fell from the Traveler during the attack. Others have noticed this as well, of course, but once you've seen them off, you're soon running around with a new set of powers. Ability to throw caution to the wind, safe in the knowledge that if all goes wrong, you simply be brought back to life. We're back, your ghost companion swoons. Let's spread the love. So it looks like the first part of the story is going to be us, obviously, with no powers. Then we're going to go to the farm. We're going to meet Hawthorne. We're going to go to that shard of the Traveler. That's where we're going to get our first subclass, or maybe all three. Probably just one, I'm guessing. They go on to say there is a far bigger sense of scale. Vast open areas with warring factions doing battle beneath majestic Bungie skyboxes are a reoccurring theme, and impossible to not think of the series of which the studio made its name, especially when you're put at the controls of a vehicle or three. Remember, in a beta, when you go to look at your Sparrow, they didn't say Sparrow, it said vehicle. We have no idea at this point, but that one sentence is a little weird. Put at the controls of a vehicle or three. Now, they talk a little bit about bosses here. Boss fights are no longer attritional checks of your damage output and endurance, but tests of skill. The excellent shape-shifting final boss neither relentlessly shells you nor surrounds you with swarms of minions, but does just enough to ensure you're constantly moving, always thinking forever under threat. His health bar goes down quickly once you can land shots in him, but the real battle is creating the opportunity to do so, finding gaps between his attacks and his backup troops. They go on to say if the campaign is any guide, Destiny 2 shifts the focus away from the designer onto the player, letting you set the terms of engagement, the flow of the fight, now a question of skill and good decision making. So they're trying to get away from the traditional bullet sponges that we're used to in Destiny 1 and kind of make boss fights more interesting for Destiny 2. Now, Edge does talk about how it's great with the landing zones and getting around places and not going back into orbit, but they also mention this: a squeeze of the left trigger brings up your Milestones menu, which makes it clear the next step in the story, as well as highlighting other activities that can be completed for rewards. Now, we've seen screenshots of the milestones, but yeah, that's how we're going to track everything from not only the main story and how far along we are, but also all the side quests and things that we got to do. Now, they do mention that some public events can be called in manually. They give one example. Say normally we would just stumble across them, and there will be some that we see a time limit on, we'll see on our map, and we have to go do it. But here it says some can be called in by manually picking up a flag but that also refills you super. Now let's talk about the 80 missions that are in the game. Now, I don't think they're all story missions. I think that's meaning everything from adventures, lost sectors, I don't know. Let me read some of this verbatim here. First off, patrols and strikes. The only PvE activities available in Destiny 2 outside of the story missions does not unlock until the final third of the campaign, and until the notification popped up, we hadn't even noticed their absence. In total, here we go, there are over 80 missions and activities in Destiny 2, and each is substantial in length, challenge, story, and reward. So based on the way that's worded, the story's not going to be 80 missions, okay? It's going to be a long story. Remember that one Redditor, he put together all the maps of Nessus and pretty much pieced together that Nessus alone had about 20 story missions on it. And they said before they got done playing, they took a look at the other 4 worlds and saw that there was just tons of stuff left undone. Now, they also talk about how that they actually had more content than they had progression. Now, they bring up how they figured that out was there was one long holiday weekend where Luke Smith played 60 hours on the studio's private test server. That's where he says we had more content than we had progression. Mark Noseworthy chimes in and says, we turned all these knobs this one way, and it turns out that at hour 55, you fell off a cliff. And he goes, it's been fixed, of course. But it just goes back to the same old thing that they've been saying all along. This game is going to be packed with content, and that in those quarterly earnings calls, they acknowledged that in Destiny 1, they weren't able to deliver enough. Well, looks like they're setting up Destiny 2 to deliver all that content. Now, they got to play for about 2 days, Edge Magazine that is, and they say, we remain unconvinced by the new 4v4 structure of the new Crucible PvP mode. We don't know whether Destiny's 2 loot dispensing random number generator will be a benefactor or a miser. They did sneak in a quote from Lars Bakken, the Crucible lead designer. The apparent power of team shooting in the beta was no error. Indeed, Bakken says, it's key to Destiny 2's design. Every subsystem in the Crucible is built around team cohesion. That's why the scoreboard at the end is completely different now. It's all about how you contributed to the team and less about yourself. So that's going to do it for this full article, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Hashtag made it to the end. And yes, guys, from now on, I'm doing extremely vague titles. If you didn't know, I'll probably explain it later in the week. YouTube's been flagging videos like crazy. I put up a news video the other day with weapons in the title. Guess what? Demonetized. I re-uploaded it, took out the word weapon from the title, and it was fine. I don't know what's going on. Do me a favor, drop a like at this video, only if you see fit. Follow me on Twitter at MesaSean. Check out my stream. Usually always on YouTube, and that's it. I'm out of here like Vladimir.